Hello, and welcome back to Creepy Diaries. Have any of you ever experienced sleep paralysis? If you have, we're curious to hear about it. Drop your stories in the comments below. In today's episode, we're delving deep into the chilling realm of sleep paralysis, where nightmares spill into reality. We have 3 spine-tingling tales that will make you question the boundaries of your own consciousness. First, we'll explore a story of a student haunted by a menacing figure in her dorm room, a presence so terrifying it blurs the lines between dream and reality. Then, we'll journey into the mind of Alex, who faces an unexplainable and sinister visitation in his own bedroom, a nightmare that lingers long after the dawn. And finally, we'll uncover Clara's harrowing tale, where a simple night's sleep turns into a nightmarish encounter, leaving her to question the very nature of her reality. So, turn off the lights, get cozy, and prepare to enter the eerie world of sleep paralysis. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Creepy Diaries for more stories that will keep you up at night. In the heart of a bustling university town, where the nights were as active as the days, lived a student named Emily. She was in her final year, majoring in psychology. The stress of her upcoming finals was like a heavy cloak draped over her shoulders. Her life had been a whirlwind of lectures, study sessions, and part-time work. The recent passing of her mother added a layer of grief that made everything else seem trivial. Emily had heard about sleep paralysis in one of her psychology lectures. The professor described it as a curious phenomenon where one awakens to a conscious state, yet the body remains in a deep slumber, unable to move. She never imagined she would experience it firsthand. It was the night before her most challenging exam. Her room was dimly lit by a single desk lamp, casting long shadows across the walls. Textbooks and notes were strewn all around. The clock ticked past midnight as she pored over her notes for the umpteenth time. Finally, succumbing to exhaustion, Emily decided to get some rest. She crawled into bed, her mind still racing with facts and theories. As she drifted off to sleep, her room seemed to fade into darkness, and a profound silence enveloped her. In what felt like moments later, Emily awoke. She could see her room bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight filtering through her curtains. But something was off. She tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't respond. Panic set in as she realized she was experiencing sleep paralysis. As her eyes darted around the room, they fixed on a figure standing by her bookshelf. It was a woman, draped in a flowing black dress, holding a book in her hands. Emily's heart raced. She wanted to scream but found her voice trapped inside her. The woman began to move, gliding towards Emily's bed with an eerie grace. As she came closer, Emily noticed the book. It was her mother's old psychology textbook. The woman reached the bedside, knelt down, and gently touched Emily's forehead. A wave of calm washed over her. The woman's face came into focus, and Emily gasped in her mind. It was her mother. Tears welled up in her eyes. She wanted to speak, to call out to her, but her voice was still imprisoned. Her mother smiled softly, stood up, and began to walk towards the door. She paused, looked back at Emily with loving eyes, then disappeared, leaving the room in silence. After what felt like an eternity, Emily's body jerked to life. She sat up, breathless, and called out for her mother. Her voice echoed through the empty room. She jumped out of bed, her heart pounding, and ran to the hallway. There, her father emerged from his room, his eyes red and weary. He embraced her, and they stood there in the hallway, sharing their grief and the unspoken understanding of their loss. He whispered, "She's always with us, Emily, in our hearts." Emily nodded, a mixture of sadness and peace settling in her heart. The experience, though terrifying, had brought her an unexpected sense of closure. She knew then that her mother's love and guidance were still a part of her, guiding her through the darkest of nights. In a quaint moonlit suburb, there lived a young man named Alex. He was an imaginative soul, often lost in the world of books and music. Lately, though, his nights were fraught with unsettling dreams, a stark contrast to his usually serene life. One night, after an exhausting day of work and errands, Alex found himself trapped in a particularly vivid nightmare. He was wandering through a dense foggy forest, pursued by a shadowy creature with glowing eyes. The dream was intense, filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. As the dream reached its climax, the scene began to blur, and Alex felt himself drifting back to consciousness. He awoke in his familiar room, but something was amiss. He tried to sit up, to shake off the remnants of the nightmare, but his body was unresponsive. He was locked in place, a prisoner in his own bed. In the deafening silence of his room, a faint sound emerged. It was a bizarre, mechanical yet organic noise, rhythmic and repetitive, pulsing every few seconds. With each pulse, it grew louder, more intrusive, as if it were approaching him. Frozen in fear, Alex's eyes darted around the room, searching for the source of the sound. Then, they fixed on the one anomaly in his room. The closet door was slightly ajar, revealing a sliver of darkness within. He never left it open. As the sound intensified, a distorted face appeared in the gap of the closet door. It was a man's face, grotesquely twisted into an oversized smile. With each pulsing sound, the face seemed to inch closer, its eyes locked onto Alex's. The sound became unbearable, a cacophony echoing in his head. He wanted to scream, to flee, but his body refused to obey. The closet door began to creak open wider, the face looming closer with each pulse. Then, suddenly, the closet door slammed shut with a thunderous bang. Silence enveloped the room once again. Gradually, Alex regained control of his body. Trembling, he leaped out of bed and dashed to his parents' room, despite being 24 years old. His father, groggy but concerned, followed him back to his room to check the closet. It was empty, devoid of any sign of the nightmarish visage. His father, a rational man, suggested it might have been sleep paralysis, recounting his own experience with it in his younger years. Though relieved, Alex couldn't shake off the eerie feeling. The haunting melody of the sound and the terrifying smile of the face lingered in his mind. He knew sleep would be elusive that night, as he pondered the thin line between dreams and reality. In a quiet neighborhood, nestled between rows of old oak trees, there lived a young woman named Clara. She was a freelance artist, known for her vivid imagination and introspective nature. Clara's life was usually peaceful, but her nights had recently become a battleground of unsettling dreams and eerie sensations. One autumn evening, after a long day of painting, Clara prepared for bed. The night was still, with only the sound of rustling leaves outside her window. As she drifted off to sleep, her thoughts swirled with colors and shapes from her latest project. Her sleep, however, was anything but restful. She found herself in a nightmare, lost in an endless fog-enshrouded forest. She was being chased by a shadowy figure, its features obscured, but its presence terrifyingly clear. As the figure drew closer, the dream began to lose its coherence, and Clara felt herself being pulled back to the waking world. She awoke in her bedroom, the familiar surroundings lit by the soft glow of the streetlights outside. But something was off. She tried to sit up, to escape the remnants of the nightmare, but her body refused to cooperate. She was experiencing sleep paralysis. In the suffocating silence of her room, a strange sound began to emerge. It was an inexplicable, mechanical yet organic noise, growing louder with each repetition. Clara's heart raced as she realized the sound was coming from her closet, which was slightly ajar. Through the narrow opening, she saw a face, distorted and grotesque, grinning with a too wide smile. Each time the sound pulsed, the face seemed to inch closer, its eyes fixed on Clara. Panic surged through her as the sound became a deafening roar in her ears. She wanted to scream, to flee, but she was trapped in her own body. Suddenly, the face in the closet threw something at her, a human head. It landed on her chest, its lifeless eyes staring up at her. It was a boy she once knew. Clara's terror reached its peak. She could only make guttural sounds, her body writhing in a futile attempt to dislodge the head. This horrifying moment seemed to stretch for an eternity. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ended. Clara jolted awake, truly awake this time. She was drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. She leapt out of bed and ran to her parents' room, desperate for comfort despite being in her mid-20s. Her father, a calm and rational man, listened intently and suggested it was sleep paralysis, a phenomenon he had read about. Clara was relieved but still shaken. A few days later, Clara's life took a dramatic turn. She was involved in a car accident while biking through town. The crash left her with several injuries, confining her to a hospital bed for days. As she lay there, her family gathered around her, their faces filled with concern and sorrow. The scene was eerily reminiscent of the figures in her sleep paralysis episode. In that hospital bed, Clara pondered the line between dreams and reality, between premonitions and coincidences. The haunting echoes of that night continued to resonate in her mind, leaving her to wonder about the mysterious workings of the subconscious mind. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Creepy Diaries. We really dove deep into the unnerving world of sleep paralysis with the stories of Emily, Alex, and Clara. Which one gave you the chills? Was it Emily's encounter in her dorm, Alex's sinister visitation, or Clara's surreal experience? Drop a comment and let us know. But hey, the creepiness doesn't end here. We've got 2 more spine-tingling videos lined up for you. So, if you're brave enough to keep the scares coming, make sure to check them out. Remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to Creepy Diaries for more content that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay spooky, and we'll see you in the next video.